All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott from Jeff Teaches Programming, and as you can see up here, it's been a few days since I posted, so I'm hoping that I have the last final version of the PayrollEFCore program, the one that we will eventually, hopefully, turn into a an ASP.NET app. So what I have done is I went back. You can see there's no migration folder here. All right, so I'm going to go back and rebuild the database. But before I do, let's take a quick look. This is our app config. So here's our database, kind of a stupid name, but payroll database ASP03b. There it is. All right, so let's do that first. So I'm going to do a tools, do get package manager console, and I'm going to say add migration initial create says that it succeeded. I now have my migrations folder right there. There's what's in it. Okay, I'm not going to run through that, but I am going to say update database. Which should help build the database for us. That says it succeeded as well. Good. So let's go in and let's view our SQL Server Object Explorer. And if I right mouse click and refresh, there's my payroll database 03b. There's the tables. And they're all empty because it's just been created. All right, so let's knock this way down and make it smaller. Maybe a little bit bigger. There we go. And let's make this smaller. I'm going to go through all of the files that are in here that I'm going to run the program to validate that it works. So taking it from the top, all right, we've got this program.cs. So this is what's going to run when the program starts. It's going to be do our configuration, run this initialize DP context, which is in here, and then it's going to run the form. So as far as that, basically what this is doing is it's setting up the context, and it's letting us know the database. It's letting us know that at least now we're running it locally. It's letting us know the name of the database and the trusted connection, meaning we won't have to log in, that since we're in this Windows, everything is cool. All right, so that's those. Let's take this sort of from the top. I did add some comments to my validation library. I'm not going to go over that though. So I'm going to go start with data. There's our DB context. As you can see here, I've added some comments so you can see what's going on. The file defines the database session for the payroll app. It inherits from DB context. It's the single point of entry for all our CRUD operations. So our create, our read, our update, and our delete. It's going to join all the tables together, and then what it'll do is it'll figure out basically what type of, as the program goes on, employee we're working with. Now notice the gross pay is a computed property. You shouldn't really store computed properties in a database. All right, it's not recommended. So I've decorated it with a not mapped annotation and saying that it's ignored. So here's our DB sets. This is our main table in here. By setting them equal to null, we shouldn't get any kind of warnings. These are our sub-tables, subtypes, our hourly employees, our piece worker employees, our commission employees, and our salaried employees. This is how we're doing the mapping. So each time we create a piece worker employee, we want to put it in the piece worker employees table, for example. Again, the gross pay is calculated, but then it's ignored. These are the sizes for all our fields. for instance, this one is 5-2, which means 5 places, so like 5 nines, but 2 after the decimal points. So the hours worked, the maximum we should expect in there would be 999.99, for example. All right, so that's that one. And let's go over next, let's go over our services. Again, try to add some comments in here. As it says, this is implementing the service layer. One of the reasons we have this services is it's going to help us. Having models, having services, etc. in there is going to help us when we convert this thing over to an ASP.NET app, hopefully fairly soon. As it says, what this service layer does is it's kind of a buffer between the form and Entity Framework core. As it says, it keeps the database logic out of the form code. All right. Again, I tried to add comments where I thought they'd be relevant. Okay. All right. So there's an hourly employee, a piece worker, a commission, and a salaried. Otherwise, you know, it's an error. Let's take a quick look, because I don't think I really changed anything, or I shouldn't say that, not much in here in the models. Let's just bring them all up. Taking it from the top, this is our base table. As it says, this defines the abstract base class, which means we cannot create somebody of type employee because it's abstract. All right, this gross pay is computed. It's not stored in the database, so we're letting it know not to store it in the database. And everybody who uses this, everyone who inherits from employee must have a calculate gross pay. So hourly employee, all right, there's its calculate gross pay, and it's nothing different from what we've had before. Our piece worker employee, same thing. Because again, it inherits from employee. Our commission employee, which inherits from employee, same thing. And our salaried employee, there really is no calculation there, but same thing. All right. So let's go over under forms. I've got my 2 forms. There's my startup. Let's just bring up the code for each one of these. All right, so we'll start with the startup. This is our splash screen, so to speak. So we build the program description as this one big string, as you'll see in just a minute. We assign that in here. So what this line is doing is it is assigning that big string in here. All right. Then we populate the combo box with hourly, piece worker, commission, and salaried. All right. We pre-select hourly. We could have set it to -1 here, meaning that it was empty, but I didn't want to do that, so it's just going to default to hourly. This allows us to exit the program if we want to. This allows us to go from one form to the other form. We do check. This should never happen. I don't even think it's possible for it to happen, but if it does, just give an error message and return. This is going to grab whatever value we put in there. Again, either hourly, piece worker, commission, or salaried. All right. This is going to create our new context and our new service, and this is going to call switch forms to our employee manager. So get rid of that, and let's bring up, just cut this down and made it really simple, as you can see. All right, so if we look in here, because this is about 500 lines long, again, I tried to add some pertinent comments in here. As it says, this is the main CRUD form for the application. It displays the employees of the selected type in the data grid view. It lets the user add, update, and delete records. Really, it also lists. So, add, which is what? Create. List, which is read, update, and delete records. And as it says, it delegates all of the database work to our employee service. The form title has been changed here too, so it's going to show the type of employee that we're working with. All right. Then as we come in here, let's cut this down so you can read this a little better. There's our service layer. That's employee service. This is what's going to do all the database work for us. This lets us know the type of employee we're working with. All right. So we come in here. This is our constructor. And if for some reason it didn't get set, we just are going to throw, if we didn't set the service and or we didn't set the type filter, we're just going to throw an exception. All right. Again, I put a lot of comments in here. Hopefully that'll help anybody who doesn't understand what's going on in here. This is refreshing the grid. As it says, we grab all the employees that we have, but then we ferret out by using what's called a link query in here, just the kind we're looking for. All right. Then we clear the data grid view and then we set it up. Now, as it says here, I added this so we could format any decimal column so it was 2 decimal places. That's what we've got here. Then we've got our 3 basic operations: add, update, and delete. Now, for add, instead of doing all the code in here, which I had done originally, I just had another file or another method so that if we wanted to, we could add menu options that would call that also. Okay, so first we validate our common fields, first name and last name, and if there's any problem, notice I used from our validation both, the show error. You must enter a first name or you must enter a last name. Then we create an employee. If we get down that far, then we verify each thing for each type of employee. Now, I should have really come in here instead of saying this. I should have used my constants, but I'm not changing it. All right. So this makes sure that the hours worked is between 0 and 84. If it's not, we give them an error message in return. This makes sure that the hourly rate is between 0 and 99. If it's not, we return with an error message. If we got down that far, we create a new employee, and again, we rounded it off, so these would be 2 decimal places. Then we do a similar thing for piece worker. We make sure that the pieces made are between 0 and 100, and that's an integer. So where previously we had been validating decimal input, now we're validating an integer input. Again, if it's not, we give an error message in return. Then we do the price per piece. If it's not valid, we return. Then again, we round these to 2 decimal places. Just the 1 because pieces is an integer, so there's no rounding to do. Then we've got our commission. Sales amount we verify is between 0 and 100,000. And commission percentage is between 0 and 0.3, so 0% and 30%. And if the percentage is out of whack, we give an error message in return. Then again, we round those 2 columns, the sales amount and the commission percentage, to 2 decimal places. Then we do the salary. Make sure it's between 0 and 100,000, and again, round it. All right. If all that stuff happens, we persist by basically setting it to the database. We refresh the grid to show whatever add we've just made. Update is a similar operation, except that when we're adding a new employee. When we're updating an existing employee. So we've got another switch statement in here. We do the same kinds of checks that we did before. Pretty this up a little bit. I thought I'd hit all these, but maybe I didn't. All right. Again, if it's out of whack, error message, etc. Okay. Then we've got a similar thing with the hourly rate. Okay, and again, we round these. Now, when we're rounding like this, we're either rounding for the data grid view or we're rounding for the database itself. Okay, so again, we do a similar thing in here then with pieces made in price per piece. Then a similar thing with sales amount and sales percentage. Then with the salary. If everything's cool, we run the update, we refresh the grid to show the change. Then we've got our delete operation, which is pretty simple. Ask first, you want to really delete that person, and if you say no, we won't delete them. So if it's anything other than yes, we just return, otherwise we do the delete. Exits the program, and we don't even need a thing to return back because we're able, you'll see in just a minute. So file, save all. All right, let's get rid of this, let's get rid of this, and let's run the program and see if it works so I can go on. All right. Okay, so again, it's pretty simple interface now. This is an updated payroll program, adding the entity framework core component to the previous program. A single data grid view and a single set of input controls handle all employee types. All right, CRUD data is saved to that database. These are the 4 employee types. Whoa, I guess I got to make that smaller. But that's okay, we'll fix that. In fact, let's just do it now. All right, so I just want to make sure you can read all of it. So let's go to Designer, where we've got this. I'm going to cut it down. So oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. All right, so we want to come in here under font, and instead of 12 point, I'm just going to make it 10 point. Hopefully that's going to be big enough, small enough, so we can see all of it. There it is. Okay. All right, so let's just do them in order. There's hourly, show the CRUD form. Notice there's nothing in there. We're going to add. It also says hourly up here. Let's just try to keep it simple, so we'll call it hourly employee 1. They worked 40 hours. They make $25 an hour. And as you can see now, $1,000. Looks good to me. Let's add one more employee here. So we'll call it hourly employee 2. And just so we can check overtime, 50. 20, that should be 1100, and it is. And let's go back to the first one. We'll do an update on there. And hourly, let's just change it to hourly emp 1. We'll keep everything else the same. Whoopsie. Oh, great. Oh, my goodness. Let's try that again. So there was a problem with the update. Son of a gun. Oh, and I had to run this first to make sure everything worked. All right, let's go back to this one. Let's update it again. We'll say HRLY for hourly. It did take it, so that looks okay. Let's get rid of this one. So delete hourly employee 1, and it's gone. So that all looks good as far as I can tell. All right, let's go back to exit. Sure you want to exit the program. No. Boy, I thought I put in here something where we could just go back. We'll exit, that's fine. All right, let's take a look at the database. So I'm going to refresh here. Go to tables. We'll go to our hourly employee table and let's look at the data. There's our one employee. And if we go to employees, there's our one employee. All right, let's close both of those. So run it again. And we'll make another employee, so it'll be a piece worker employee. You can see it's empty. Let's add it. So let's call this piece worker 1. See, they made 50 pieces and they get 50 cents for each piece. $25. That looks good. Let's add another one. Let's purposely spell their name wrong. So piece worker 2. And we'll say they made 100 pieces and they get 35 cents for each piece. That looks good. All right, let's update this one. So piece, let's spell worker correctly. That is still giving us an error here. Well, I'm going to have to check that out. All right, now we'll try to check that out before we go on. Okay. All right, let's see if that those people are still in there and if we can make a change. It is in there. Let's just see if we can delete them. Okay, that looks good. Let's again update our database, or refresh it, I should say. Look at employees. There should now be 2 records in there. There they are. And let's go to our commission. Nope, sorry, our piece worker. And that looks good too. So let's close both those. To run it again. Let's try a commission employee. $5,000 at 10%. 500, that would be correct. Let's add another one. Let's make it $50,000 and 0.25. Looks good. Let's update this one. Still giving us that one right there. I'll have to look at that, but I believe it took it and it made the changes anyway. So let's look. So let's refresh the database. Look at employees and see if we now have. Yep, they're both in there. Oops. They're both in there. Okay, let's close these 2. Let's run it again and try a salary. In fact, let's get rid of one of those employees, commission employees. Okay, that should be good then. And let's try one more time with a salaried employee. Okay, that looks good. Let's add one more. That worked well. Delete it. Okay, all of it appears to be working except for that one error that I just showed you. All right, let's exit. Let's refresh the database. And let's make sure our salaried looks okay. There's our salaried worker. And our employees looks okay. Got one of each employee in there. That all worked. All right, so basically it's working. I've got to fix that one error. I'll try to do that. Also thought I had it set up before where we could make it jump back to the main form without doing anything else. So I'm going to do that as well. All right, I'll be back I'll explain that, but what I want to do in the next video is I want to start converting this into an ASP.NET app. So I'll try to show you what changes I had to make and then go on from there. See you soon.